Hello everyone, it's Tilly from Tilly Journals, and I'm back with video 2 in the handwriting, hand lettering series, and today we are going to be talking about standard cursive handwriting. This is sort of the basis of your brush lettering and things like that. So how I do this is based off French ruled paper, so this is what French ruled paper looks like. I'm just showing you because of how tiny this is, which is why I'm not going to be showing you on this. But the idea is this darker line, I don't know whether you can see really, this darker line is your baseline for your letters and the bottom of your letters. So then you've got four lines between that. So your main body of letters should be between that line and the next line up. Any tall letters, so anything that goes upwards, goes up to there, and anything that goes downwards goes down to here. The exceptions for this are the letters D and T, which only go up to the second line up rather than the third. Don't ask me why, it's just how it works. So rather than using French ruled paper, I'm going to do the same sort of thing on here. But we'll start off with the simple letters that are just a 1 by 1 height. Let's zoom in a little bit so you can see things a bit better. So we'll just write the word cursive to start off with to show you, but all of cursive is actually within 2 lines. There you go. That is the word cursive. So we're now going to go through each letter individually. So an A, you start at your baseline, have your intail, make a circular A, and then go out. And to make that all 1, my A's often are not 1. I can do it as 1, but I just think they look more scruffy. So often, despite it being cursive, I do actually lift my pen off the page. So that is an A. I'm just going to zoom in on my other camera as well, so hopefully that can see things a bit better. C, which is the next letter, similarly I do an intrail and then just a circular line. E is the next letter. This time I don't tend to lift my pen off, so my tail goes up to the middle, then from there I go around and off. So the E itself is very similar to the E in my other font, it's just added a tail at the front and the back. I goes up to the top line, down, up to the top line again. All of my tails start on the base line, so this line, and go up to your top line. If we were on French ruled paper, this is our dark line. The body of your texts go up to this, the body of your main letters go up to this line. Tall letters go up to this line, short letters go up to this line. So rather than that tiny bit, we've just got a bit more space to play with here. So that's an I. The next letter is an M. I love M's in cursive. M's and N's are beautiful letters in cursive. Start at the baseline, go up, down, up, down, up, down, up. I just think they're really pretty. Again, you can, if you want, take your pen off and do it like that, but I just don't think it looks very different. I actually prefer the look of it all through in one stroke. Most cursive I do, it's just some of my tails in I don't like. So A's and C's are the main ones. I think will come into other letters as we go. N's are very similar, except rather than going, you only have 1 lump rather than 2. O's, the way I do an O is I go from your baseline to the middle, then I go down, around, make a little loop, and to the top, like that. So that is an O. It's often more like this because I was slowing it down. It was harder to make it how I would normally make it. Sometimes you slow down so much your letters just don't form the way you normally would form them. So that's an O. Next is an R, which is the weirdest letter in cursive. however you write it. The way to do a cursive R in my cursive is I start at the baseline, go up, make a loop just above that top line, and then from that loop it comes down into the main square, and then I go back up to that top line and then down and up. The other way to do it is just to go down and like that, but to me that just looks like a squiggle. I mean, neither of them really look like R's until you're in cursive handwriting, until they're in a word. But yeah, that is sort of the two ways to do an R. S, again, another not very easy letter in cursive. I make it loopy, and that's how I like it, so like this. So I start at my baseline, go up above, slightly above the line, and make my circle, and then slightly below, make another circle, and there. So that the diagonal of your letter S really does want to be on a diagonal. So you actually end up more like that. And again, looks a bit odd as a lone letter. Most of cursive does, but it makes really pretty words when you put them together. Yeah. U is dead simple. Again, you go up to your top and make a U. Personally, I don't have any harsh turns in my cursive, so I tend to do it more like this than this, but you can do whichever you prefer. This to me is more like a W, which I'll show you in a second. V does actually have a harsh line, having said that, but I add a little squiggle on a little swirl on the end of my V, so that's what my V looks like. And again, it doesn't actually have a harsh thing after saying that. W, kind of like a U, except I add a swirl. So it's actually more like a V. It's more like two V's than two W's in my cursive. X is a funny letter. You have to treat it as if it was a T or an I or a J, because you have to add something after the point. So for an X, what I do is I start at the baseline, go up to the top, do a diagonal cross, and back up to the top. And then, when I finish my word, I come back in and add that diagonal. Yeah. So it's like, essentially, a swivel. It's like a zigzag. And then you just add your other part. Then the last letter of the ones that are all the same height is an... Oh no, it's not. It's not in this handwriting. It was a Z in the other handwritings, but that's not true of cursive. Cursive Zs go downwards. So now we'll move on to the letters with a bit at the top. So they're the main letters, and they are the ones that go between two lines. Now we're going to look at things with ascenders, which are things that go above. So, as with the French ruled paper, you've got your baseline. The main body of your letter will be between your baseline and the first dot. The ascender will go right up to the third dot, like that. And we're going to ignore T and D for this. So, all of my letters that go all the way up have a loop in. So, we'll take B. So B, start at the baseline, go all the way up to 3, go back down in a straight line, and then just add a little circle. And this is the only way I found that I like the letter B. I had a lot of playing with it, so you can do the swirl and then you can not have your loop at the end. But I just think that looks funny to me and it looks more like an F. And basically this is the only way I found that doesn't look like an F to me. So that's how I do my B's. H, similar, except rather than making the loop at the bottom, so you start exactly the same way, you go up and back down. And then obviously, because all of my cursive letters when I'm writing them individually stop at the top line, I add that little tail. Next one is a K. Similarly, you start in the same way, then you just do your round and you're down. I don't know how else to describe that. I prefer this made a bit bigger, and the bottom, I've started to do it there. My the tail of my K, this bit often comes slightly below the baseline, just because that's how I prefer to draw my Ks, and naturally to me that's how it does it. You'll notice all of these, the loop actually starts, the entire loop is just of these two. It doesn't actually come into this bottom square. And that's how I do my Ls as well. So just, I almost come up and barely along to start off with, and then form my body of my letter, the loop above my baseline square, which gives you the advantage of having the space to make your letters with all of these. Obviously L, and the reason I prefer it for L, because I think doing it like that, when you do multiple L's, it looks better, whereas if you just start from the base, I just think your L's turn up into like different letters and they just look a bit strange. Whereas if you do it like this, they're always a bit more uniform. I don't know whether it works, but it does. So that's all of those letters, and they all have loops. T and D only are meant to come up to this line here. So yeah, they only do that, and they do not have loops in my handwriting. So a T just goes up to there and back down, and I tend to cross it on the baseline. And a D is another letter where I tend to take my pen off at least once, if not twice, through the width of a D, just because I prefer how it looks if I do that. So yeah, that's a D and a T. The way I make this work, because I feel like if you do a T and a H like that without doing anything to it, so if you do TH like that, I mean, it looks alright and it's fine, but what I do with a TH, because it's quite a common letter combination, is I actually take my pen off there, then I take this, cross my T, and make it into, I've just done it wrong, and make it into my H, except this is meant to go up to the next line. Let's do that again. Focusing too hard. And then if they haven't joined, I'll just rejoin them at the end. So that's how I do my THs to make it look less funny in this to me. So yeah, that is all of your ascending letters. So descending letters, you've got your baseline, the main body of your letter goes up to here, and then your descender goes down 2 lines. So G is the first one. Again, I actually take my pen off part way through G. And all of my letters, with my G's and things, I tend to go slightly back towards the middle of my letter when I'm coming back up. I don't know why, I just do. J is like an I that goes all the way down and then back up. For like my dots on my eyes and things, what I tend to do is put them just below the next line up, so just below here. So just below where that squiggly line is there. P is a funny letter. I don't do a loop on my P's. I know other people do. So I go up, straight down, take my pen off, then go back to here and do like a B bit, but like how I do for the B, but with a P. You can keep your pen on, but I just feel it looks a bit funnier. And you can make a loop of your P, but again, to me, it just doesn't look right. Oh, I can't do it now. Let's take a second. I'll try and do a neat P with a loop. There you go. I don't like it. I don't write that many P's, so it's not normally a problem. But yeah, that's how you do it with a loop, but this is how I do mine. Q, I do a loop for though. I stop there, I go down. My loop, however, is to the right rather than to the left on a G. So I stop at the bottom, I come back and round to make a little loop like that, and then go like that to make my Q. I don't know whether you're noticing, but basically any letter that has a circulary bit first, I tend not to connect my tail in to the letter itself, because of the same reason I didn't with my A's. I just think this or this looks neater than that. It's just what I prefer. Y is basically a U with a tail. And again, you can make this sharp or you can make it bendy, up to you. And then we have the unique letter that is F in cursive. So an F in cursive is essentially super tall. So your baseline is here. Your main body of your letter, which there isn't one in F, so we can ignore that, goes up to here. Your ascender goes all the way up to here, and your descender goes all the way down to here. So an F starts on your baseline, goes all the way up to the top, goes all the way down, goes back to the middle, and there it is. Lots of people, including my other half, do their Fs like that. It looks funny to me. I don't know what letter that is, but that is my preferred way to do Fs. But have a play, look at different cursive styles, see what works for you. But yeah, use French ruled paper lines to do it, and it will give you a really good idea of, you know, what height your letters should all be. But
I've moved over to that one now.
that's because it looks like an F.
Yes.
I'm going to leave that in just so you know. Yeah. So because cursive is very different depending what letters come after one another, I'll write the alphabet. I've not done any capitals in either of these fonts. Oh well. We'll worry about capitals in another series if I do them. I don't tend to use capitals in my cursive very often. So I'm just going to write the alphabet as one long strip of cursive, and you can see where I'll naturally pick my hand up in at different points. I forgot to go over Z because it is a descender letter in cursive. So again, you start at your baseline, it's like a 3, but the main body of your 3 is like your descender. So some people do it more like that. Mine varies, depends how I'm writing. Something like that. So that is the letter. I would love to go over some difficult letter combinations. The letter connections people find difficult are the ones that stop at the top rather than the bottom. So W's, V's and O's tend to be where people struggle. So words like worry, so we'll write worry. How do you spell, is worry got 1 R or 2?
2.
So your W is just as normal, and then your O, so because you actually start in the middle, is fine. And then again, for your R, you just go straight up to it. And that, the tail of that Y didn't go down enough. But yeah, you can see the difference between sort of connecting from a height or from lower. And for example, joy, which has an O that starts after from the baseline, You just go up to the O rather than across to the O, if that makes sense. So, let me know in the comments if there are some letter combinations you struggle with and if you want to see me write some of those out. For now, I'm just going to write the quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog, which is, you know, the most common, what's the word?
Panagram?
I think so. Most common panagram, maybe? So there it is. The really easy way to change a cursive and to have a play with it is to use it on a diagonal. I'm not going to go over every letter like that, but basically how I do it is I imagine a diagonal line going sort of 1 by 2 diagonally. So do you see what I mean? So 1 square by 2, draw a diagonal line that way, and that is the body of your letter. So a T is easy because your T would go just straight like that. But this becomes more difficult with things like your loops of your H's, because the body of the letter, this straight line does not want to go 1 by 2, it wants to go at a steeper angle because your general diagonalness wants to be that steep. But your whole letter wants to be that steep rather than either part of your H, because if you do sort of the bottom of your H, can't even do it, like a 2 by 1 angle, the whole letter is more slanted than your next I, which is a 2 by 1 angle. But honestly, you can just practice it and just find which angle works best for you. I've just found the one that works best for me, and I actually practiced this for a very long time. And it does look amazing when you do pages of slanted writing. This is how little I've practiced, because this is not, the slant on this is not the same. What you can do is you can get French ruled paper with your diagonals on, and so you can follow your diagonals a bit better. And I find if you want to practice French ruled paper but make it bigger, so photocopy it or find a template on the web that you can enlarge, print it on something really smooth, really nice to write on, and that is the best way, in my opinion, to practice cursive. I mean, you can do it on dot grid paper and follow this, but you just have to think a little bit more. I mean, it works really well, and you actually have to write quite big to do that. So yeah, that is it for this video. Again, there are lots of ways you can play with it and make it your own. Do have a play, look at other styles of cursive that aren't just mine, to find what works for you. Yeah. I thank you for watching. Comment, like down below whether you want to see any sort of letter combinations or anything like that, and I hope to see you next time. Bye! I'll be back tomorrow for another plan with me.